introducing myself, but that's been done for me. Right, so I am Vicky. Yes, I am originally Maltese, but I've been living here since December, with a break in between. Um, right, so I wanted to start my sermon by first saying that I've always believed in God. There was only one moment in my life where I was like, are you even there? Why are you letting this happen? And I was like 8. Okay. So I'm going to I'm going to talk about how my faith in God has developed over the years. As it is for most of us, we first start believing in God because our parents believe in them, right? They tell us about this person who is in the sky, and that's it. We just believe it. But for me, okay, I believed when my parents told me about it. And then as I grew older, when I reached the ages of 11, 12, and I started having a basic knowledge of science, I just went like, okay, well, I'm gonna start having my own beliefs now. And the reason I believe in God now is because the world is made too perfect to have come across as a coincidence, right? I mean, if you look at how nature works, or the life cycle, or things, they're made in a way that makes you think this should have been designed. There's no way this is coincidence, right? And that has been my belief until now. So there you have it. But that's not enough, right? And that's something that I only learned on this workshop. Believing that God exists is not enough. And one realization I've had during the workshop is, wow, my belief in God simply extends to believing he exists and nothing beyond that. And it took me a few things to realize that maybe I should change that. Maybe I should let God be more a part of my life. For instance, I'll give you an example. So you guys know Lisa and Samuel. I heard their matching testimony for the first time this year, and I heard it again in the workshop. And it's like hearing it, I was like, that's insane. Like, how does that even happen? The amount of coincidences that they found was just, it had to be designed, right? It had to be designed that way because it's just too crazy. And I thought, wow, they let God in their life to choose their matching for them. And that's not the mentality I had before the workshop. That was, I want to choose my own partner, I want to initiate. And I realized, wow, that could go wrong in so many ways. Like, I don't trust my choices. How could I trust myself to choose my own partner, you know? And it's just like, okay, that was the turning point for me. That was when I was like, you know what? Maybe I should let God in on some of my bigger choices. And as soon as I decided that, some weird stuff started to happen in the workshop. So you guys know the book, The Way of God's Work. For the last 3 days workshop, my team started to open the book at random pages and just reading the first quote that we see. This was the last 3 days. So the first time that we looked at the pages, I got this quote: "Who can become a Stephen in the ideal of unification? Don't expect any comforts, but look for hardships before you receive glory. If so, God will be with you and you will find companions." Came to me when I first started thinking about Done. For those who don't know, Done is a training program, and that just explains exactly what Done is, right? We're actively seeking hardship to receive glory, and God will give you companions. Exactly what Done is. I was like, wait, I'm reading this. I should go to Done. Weird coincidence, should have been designed, right? And you know, the funnier thing is, we're reading in a circle, and the person right before me had read the exact same quote. Now, it seemed that cool. But think about it. It's the way of God's will. There are like at least 1,000 quotes. For 2 people to choose the same one is around 1 in a million. And for it to happen on this workshop, had to be designed, right? And the same exact thing happened the day after. Another person in my team chose the same quote I did. And I was creeped out by this point. I was like, what is going on? Man, this is just crazy. So the second quote I got is, I am the king of affection, but when I am in my public position, I am merciless and strict. Everyone must feel righteous indignation and matters. And I didn't understand this at first. So Mr. Khanna was in the room with us and we asked him to explain. As basically trying to, it's like when you're trying to explain your ideals in public. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now, right? Crazy. And the third quote was the one that hit me the hardest, I think. It hit me on the last day of the workshop. And by that time, I had been a completely changed person. The quote was, don't speak of the church as if you were an outsider. Don't observe God from a distance, but feel that you are with him. I entered that workshop as a skeptic, and not a skeptic in God, a skeptic in the church. I entered the workshop as a skeptic. And to think that I'd get this quote on the very last day was mind-blowing. It was like, I had resolved when I chose these quotes. I was like, God, I'm gonna let you choose this for me. And I want to see quotes that will hit me like a truck. I want to see things that will make me think, okay, maybe I should change the way I think or act, you know? And I get these quotes and I'm like, you know what? I'm convinced. You've convinced me that I should let you be more a part of my life than merely just believing in you. And I think one of the things that I resolved during that workshop was that I would leave my matching interest in God's hands. I never thought of it in this way before, but I don't know. Just hearing Lisa and Samuel's matching testimony, it was just like, man, I want something like that. You know, I think all of us want the kind of relationship that is just out of this world, not in a romantic sense, but just like you just fit so well together. And I want something like that, you know? So yeah, quotes were a big part of that. And wow, I'm still blown out of my mind, right? It still feels so surreal to be back. And I don't know, that workshop was just so, changed me so much in ways I cannot describe, right? And let me explain something I said a few minutes ago, actually. I have been a skeptic in this church for quite a few years now. And I've been this skeptical for years, right? It probably started when I was around 14, 15. And I didn't attend church much, to be honest. Like I attended very few services between the ages of 15. I was pretty much. I really wanted the workshop to clarify my ideals. I wanted it to clarify whether I should be walking on this road of skepticism or actually try and believe. And I feel like, apart from the lectures, right? Interactions with people made me only up to a certain point, you know? And I don't know, maybe skepticism wasn't doing it for me. Maybe I was too skeptic. So now that I've undergone all these crazy situations, now I think I'm ready to believe. And maybe I should be reading the divine principle. And that's what it was about, right? It was like, don't speak of the church as if you're an outsider. It was basically pointing a gun at me, that quote. It was like, this is exactly what you're thinking. You have to stop, you know? God. I think people. So many interesting. We had run 2 laps around the field behind, and on a normal day, I would have been like, you know what, half a lap is enough. I am dead. I am dead. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it for God. This is gonna be my indemnity for not leaving him be more of a part of my life. So I did 2 laps. There were repercussions, but since this is testimony, I will not go into it. Very funny experience though. So if you want to come to me for this, feel free. It's very funny. Right. So without further ado, I would just like to show some pictures of the workshop. So this is the main group photo, right? Those of us who are more vertically challenged at the front. Doyle there, any fingers by the way. And whatever, there are more of them. Okay, you can go to the next photo now. That was a nice photo though. I actually looked okay in it. So I was fine with it. That's a good picture. This was just, yeah, the guy at the bottom. This is basically I stood at the bottom because I am vertically challenged, unfortunately. Yeah, right. That is my team. And one more thing to the girls who got the same quotes as me were this one, her name is Leona, she's German, and Marina Alexi. And the funny coincidence that we're all thinking of going on Dawn. I think we're the only people in my group who are thinking of Dawn, and we got the matching quotes. That's another crazy thing to think about. So, right. Just let me drink for a sec because I've been yapping. Right. So, but I do want to leave space for Doyle because I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about this. So, yeah, thank you for listening, everybody.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I want to talk a bit about my workshop experience, my internal kind of journey on the work, my realizations, and yeah, go into what I was doing at the time, and what I've committed to and things like this. So, I mean, you can put one of the workshop pictures on the background. But yeah, I think for me it was a really good workshop. You can put the Irish one. Yeah, it was I think a brilliant workshop. A lot of the content was to do with honoring your parents, inheriting from your parents and your parents' legacy, matching and blessing preparation, and kind of finding ways to how you can love God and others more. But for me, it was, I think, a very intense workshop personally. The most intense I've been on. I've been on many workshops since 2017, so it's been like 7 years of workshops. I think the intensity was connected to decisions I was going to make this year for this next year, and letting go of things that were holding me back, like self-doubts, fears of kind of uncertainty, and desires to have kind of control in my life. And yeah, this feeling of kind of failure before even starting something. So for this next year, there's this feeling of like, okay, I don't know if I can do well this next year before the year has even started. Yeah, because for me, it's kind of like, it's unclear what this next year will bring. So yeah, I was kind of confronted with this trust in God, this kind of lack of clarity for the next year. and yeah, feeling a bit overwhelmed with that. But that was also kind of frustrating. Yeah, kind of with my last 2 years, it was really like this internal growth, this journey. And I felt like I was kind of in the same position as the last 2 summers, where there's a feeling of uncertainty. And there's a leap of faith. I have to make a decision and commit to it. In a sense, it's the expression of trust in God. So it's frustrating that I'm, feeling kind of this similar thing for another time. And yeah, this kind of thought came into my mind, like, after all I've done, why am I still struggling like this? But I feel like this kind of sentence, after all I've done, is quite arrogant statement. It's kind of saying like, oh, I've done so much, so why is this happening to me? When, like, what have I really done on my own? And so taking humility in that sense, and yeah, just realizing that, your stability and your faith and your clarity, that's all these things, it's kind of based in the present moment. Like, you can't really say like, oh, I'm stable because 2 years ago I was stable, or like, yeah, my faith is strong because 2 years ago I was fundraising, and things like this. So I think it's important to me to be confident in what I was able to achieve in the past, but not to be living in it, just to be humble with it, and to kind of come to understand that, yeah, struggling is okay, even though there's like, there's been a lot of growth. There's a sense of like this feeling for me, like, oh, I don't want to be struggling because of this growth, for example. So yeah, I guess what I want to kind of convey with the message of this, I guess, testimony is yeah, this finding this trust in God and responsibility in my own life, and I guess learning what it means to love others and letting go of these things that are holding me back. So I think for me, one thing I was important to let go of, or like decide to let go of, was this sense of control in my life, like wanting control, basically, to choose what's going to happen to me with the next year, but also going forward, with such as matching a blessing, etc. And I guess something that came to mind was like, well, maybe what I want is not really what God has planned for me in the moment or for in the future. And yeah, in order to let go of this kind of desire to control, that means I have to put my trust and faith that everything will work out, basically, having faith in God. But that also means to take responsibility in my life. I think when the sense of letting go of control doesn't mean I'm letting go of my life or like responsibility in my life. I think it means that I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not gonna have this feeling of like I'm doing what I want, or I'm doing I'm controlling what I want, and still being responsible for my life. Yeah, so one of these things that I guess these realizations that I've had from, I guess, my 2 years of done is this sense of like, yeah, even if I can't control my circumstances, I can control how I respond to it. And yeah, I mean, this is some kind of realization, but it doesn't just happen like you have a realization and then you're chilling for the rest of your life. Like, I think you have to keep revisiting this realization when you're faced with these kind of things, and it's always a choice every time. So for example, like, I'm going to talk about a fundraising day I had a few months ago. So basically, I mean, I think this day kind of encapsulates that phrase. Well, I was in Austria. It's my first day when the teams were split. Yeah, so I was fundraising for 2 hours, and it was okay. It wasn't the best day, but I was walking into, like, I think I've said this story before, but I think you know. I walked into an estate and I saw this guy, and he came up to me and he's asking me for money, and he was like this beggar, and he had a card, and he had like this whole fundraising line on his card. I was just like, bro, like, I'm trying to make money too, but he asked me for like a bit of money because he wanted like food, or he wanted a place to stay or something. So I gave him some of my pocket money. And when I was leaving, I was like, I feel good about this. I feel like, it was an offer. Like, I took it from my own money and gave it to him. So I hope he's okay. So I turned the corner and I go into an estate, and there's 12 other beggars. So I realized that this is like an organized group of beggars, Romanian beggars, in this estate. And like this estate looks so nice, man. It was like full of row houses. And I come in and there's like 15 beggars like banging at the door. And like, I was just like, okay, insane. So now I have to leave. So I was walking through the estate and I was wondering if I should like go to these houses. And I was seeing them interact with people, and they were like kind of harassing people on the street. And in their house, they're like banging on the door, like ringing the doorbell a lot of times. And And then they saw me, and then they started approaching me. I was like, brother. So yeah, I just told them that, yeah, I have no money. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what you're doing. So I continue, and yeah, I was fundraising people on the street as I was leaving, and then they saw me, so they started following me. One of them started following me, but I mean, I was internally having this battle of, okay, should I leave this area, basically? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, and if I see more people, then I'll decide if I leave or not. And then as I was leaving, like there's more beggars, like the street. I was like, how many people, like how much is in this family? But like I really like this area, and then it's like, okay, this thing of like, okay, what does God want me to do here? And I can't really control the circumstance of what I'm gonna do. So my initial response was like, my reaction was like, oh, I want to leave. Like I'll just change area. It feels like this is what's supposed to happen. So I called my team leader, and he said like, yeah, he'll call me back in half an hour, and then I can make my decision. So I continued fundraising for half an hour, and then I was really like deciding like, okay, what does God want me to do here? And yeah, for me, it was important to have it from God's perspective. Plan for the day. I don't know what's gonna happen, but my internal goal was I will not let go. So basically, it was like I was talking about like commitments to God. I won't let go of these commitments to God. But in a sense, like I've committed to this area, right? That I've been given. And the only reason I would leave is so I could have an easier day and have a bigger chance to reach my goal and like external goal. So my decision was to stay. And yeah, with the circumstance, that's how I decided to respond. I was like, yeah, I kind of told God, I'm gonna stay here even if it means I don't reach my goal, but I feel like this is what I want to do, or this is what I have to do. So then I kind of let go of this concept of like, okay, I can't fundraise here because they've been just destroyed. Like the area has been destroyed by these people. So like my mindset was like, okay, I'm gonna kind of restore this place even if I don't receive anything. Kind of going back and loving these people, in position of after these people have already done this. And yeah, it wasn't an easy day, but at the end of the day, I always felt very like fulfilled because I felt like I made the right decision with my goal, and I felt like I responded in the right way. And then I ended up reaching my goal by €2. So it felt like, in a sense, like this was kind of what was supposed to happen. And yeah, this aspect of like, I can't control what's happening, the circumstance, but I can decide how I respond to it. And I decided to stay. I feel like that was the lesson I learned from my life. But just because I learned it there doesn't mean it's automatic in the rest of my life. It's still a choice. So yeah, trusting God in this kind of face of the unknown is always like a choice. And you don't just have to make it once in your life, but you have to keep choosing every time you're faced with this decision. And yeah, I think trust, like we learned this on the workshop, and I agree with this, but trust is a deep expression of love. And that's also how you can express love for God when you have this trust. Because you can love someone and not trust them, right? But yeah, I wanted to show that I can trust God, and that's an expression of my love. So yeah, there was a big theme on the workshop of this thing called, Exodus, basically the Israelites leaving Egypt. And the thing was, we're going to leave something behind, and we're committing to something, walking forward. And for me, I wanted to let go of this kind of desire of having control of my life. So what I was leaving behind was leaving behind being a victim to these kind of circumstances in my life, or taking this victimhood mindset of like, yeah, why is this happening to me after all I've done, for example. Leaving behind kind of this fear of uncertainty in the future and kind of self-doubt that I can succeed, even though I don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, letting go of the desire to have this control. So yeah, I don't think leaving something behind is easy, because yeah, it's a choice that you have to actively keep making. It's not like it's automatic once you decide to leave something. And I think it was kind of, I don't know, poetic, this kind of term of Exodus, and then this feeling of like, yeah, it's not easy to leave something behind, because I mean, interpreting that kind of story, like when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, they were like constantly like doubting, for example. They always were like, oh, is this the right thing, or should we go back? And that was a surprise for me. Like they were willing to go back to kind of face the suffering that they knew rather than go into the future that they were kind of uncertain about. But in a sense, they still committed to that and kept going forward. So my feeling from that was, yeah, I think falling back and doubting things is normal. But what really matters is that you have like the strength and faith to keep going, and you overcome those doubts. And yeah, to kind of realize that you're not alone, and you have God and you have each other. So for me, it was important to realize like, okay, it's okay if I'm struggling with these things. as long as I can overcome it and keep going forward. It's not the struggle that's the problem. It's giving up if that's the problem. So yeah, it was important for me to not like kill myself over these doubts or like get really hard on myself. I think that was important. Yeah. So the motto of the workshop was love God beyond praise. That was the theme. And I think it was quite a profound theme, to be honest, because like as Vicky was saying, like what does it mean to kind of love God beyond believing in him and beyond like praising him or having these kind of words to him? So this was kind of a question I had throughout, like what does it really mean to love God in the present? For me, it was important to kind of find ways to love God, and not just in like past achievements or victories or future commitments, but like in the present moment. And I don't know, I feel like maybe First Gen can relate, but like, for example, you've had a lot of these spiritual accomplishments, also like like physical accomplishments of fundraising and witnessing for years and being blessed in these families. In a sense, these are all spiritual victories and all expressions of love you had for God. But does that define how you're loving him in the moment, like today? For me, it was kind of like, okay, I've fundraised, I've done these, I've done for 2 years, but does that mean I'm showing how much I love God today? Because I've done that before. So it's important for me to like focus in the present moment of how I'm loving God and having this relationship rather than living in the past victories or the future commitments to matching a blessing as my sign of love, showing love to God. And I think, yeah, the question is kind of how to love God is connected to how we love each other and how we love other people. And yeah, what I kind of understood from it was like, yeah, how you love God is by loving other people, for example. I don't know, I don't know if this metaphor kind of came into mind, but like, for example, let's say you're a man, you're marrying into this family, you're marrying a woman who has children already. And what's the best way to love this woman? I think it's to love her children as like your own children. So kind of the thing with the same with God. How you love God is to also love his children and yeah, your brothers and sisters. Yeah, so for me, I was like, okay, well, what does that look like? I think service is a very big action you can take because it's substantial and pure intentions. And that's, yeah, obviously a very good way you can love other people. You can show love to other people and you can love God through that. Yeah, but one thing that I was kind of thinking about throughout my fundraising the last few months, but yeah, another way to like show how to love God is really rejoicing in the success of other people and wanting the best for them, to genuinely want them to have a better outcome than you. And I think that's actually quite a hard thing to genuinely want for people. Because like, yeah, for me in fundraising, I think we can relate a bit. But like when you come home and then someone like, okay, let's say me coming home fundraising, you come home and you're like, okay, so like how did you do? You know? And then he's like, oh yeah, I made my goal. And then you're just like, damn, I didn't make my goal. So it's kind of like this feeling of like comparison, for example. But if you have this genuine feeling of like, okay, before you go into the day, I want Conal to have the best day. I want him to have the best day, even if it means I have a really bad day. And then you come home and then you have like this trash day. And then you're like, okay, Conal, how did you do? How was your day? He's like, oh, amazing. I had my peak day. I had an insane day. And then you can have this feeling of like, you're so happy. Your day is already better because your friend had a good day. To genuinely want him to have a better day than you, or like have a better outcome than you, or to do better than you. I think sincere form of love for the people. And yeah, that's something I was kind of battling during the fundraising of like, how can I love other people more by wanting them to have a better day than me, for example. Yeah, so this kind of came up again in the challenge night that we had. Basically, it was just you run laps around Camberg, and the purpose behind it was like for something you want to leave behind. I think there's a physical and there's a purpose behind it. For me, it just makes me really feel like I'm fighting for something, and it's easy to like have this kind of grit, like I won't give up, for example. It's like fundraising, basically. So yeah, basically, I committed to myself that I'm doing 3 laps. Because providential number or something. So I was doing it, and Yeah, it was like, for example, it's like it's kind of an individual task, but you're together. So for these first 3 laps, like we were running, and then I was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna do this for God. I do this for God, for example. So I was pushing myself, yeah, wanting to kind of leave behind this and all of this, and then committing to this, walking forward, having this faith in God. Yeah, so then I stopped. Like after the 3rd lap, the team leaders and the sports coordinators were like, "Okay, we're stopping now," and then everyone's gonna come back. Mine, Martin, and an older brother of ours, Javi, like they continued running. And I mean, I was exhausted at this point, but I just didn't really think about it. I just decided to join them for the 4th lap. And like this was like really hard for me, but I wanted to do it not for myself, but for these 2 guys. Yeah, so it felt like I was fighting for more than myself this time. Like I was pushing and running for them. So I ran up to Martin. I was kind of like convincing him, like, yeah, you got this, kind of with him. And yeah, this feeling I was letting go of this desire of like wanting myself at the center, wanting the best for myself, basically, and fighting to let go and wanting better for someone else. For example, Martin. Yeah, so we were running and we were catching up to Javi. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to kind of be beside him so that we can support him. Like he was doing 4 laps and he had no shoes on. I don't know why he had no shoes on, but he was running in like on the concrete with no shoes. I was like, okay, that's the same. So we were running up and I wanted to like, yeah, we're with you. We're going to support you running. And then he was just like, yeah, you thought, boy. And then he just runs faster. I was just like, bro, what? I was like, we want to catch up so we can support you. But then we're like, yo, we're going to come up to you. And he's like, yeah, you're going to have to do better than that. Like he's pushing us to reach to him. I was like, okay. But I felt like quite meaningful because as an older brother, he's supporting us, right? And he's pushing us. So even if it means like, yeah, we want to support him, he's still pushing us to do better. So yeah, we finally caught up to him near the end of the lap, reaching everybody. And then he kind of pushed us in front of him. So like my back was here and Martin was running behind us. And then when we crossed the kind of finish line, he said like, you guys are better than me. And in the moment, I was like, I was literally dying. So I didn't really understand. I didn't really like process what he said. But then when I did, it hit me quite hard because it's like, okay, this is what I've been kind of fighting for this workshop and like before these last few months, kind of having this pure desire or pure intention that I want other people to have it better than me, even though I'm trying my best. I feel like it's a sincere form of love. And yeah, it was kind of this quote from True Father. I don't know what Hundake it is, but he said, I'm your biggest competition, but I want you to be better than me. And I feel like this kind of encapsulates this kind of tough love where it feels like, yeah, I'm going to push myself to do the best I can. And that pushes you, but I want you to do better than me. And I felt like that's what Javi was doing when we were running. Like he's pushing us to go faster while he was going faster. And then at the end, he wanted us to do better than him. And yeah, there's this feeling of like, okay, I'm not doing this on my own anymore. That's why I was overwhelmed with the sense of like this decision next year, because I felt like I was doing this alone. And I didn't, for example. And then I just realized, yeah, I'm not alone. I have God and I have friends, family, community to support me. And yeah, I just felt like, I don't know, like I can do this because I have other people to like support and are supporting me. So I think that last lap was quite fulfilling because I felt feeling of like other people too. So yeah, I think that was kind of a beautiful moment wrapping up the workshop. And I felt like I received a lot and come to realize yeah, kind of love is not just in kind of the actions of service, but also in the intentions you have for other people. I feel like you can serve other people, but if you just don't have an intention for them to have like the best life or a good life, then I feel like, it's not really pure intention. And feels like, yeah, trusting God and taking responsibility is always kind of an active decision, and it always reoccurs. It's not something that, yeah, for me anyways, it's not something that I can just decide one time and then I can just chill for the rest of my life. That's kind of a decision I have to make almost every time I'm faced with something. And yeah, that we're on individual journeys, but we're never kind of alone. We have each other. And I think the biggest one for me is it's okay to struggle, because I felt like after these 2 years, I've grown a lot. So I felt like, okay, I'm kind of on this incline. I don't want to regress, or I don't want to have this feeling of like I'm not doing good. But I think, yeah, learning that it's okay to struggle, but what matters is that I don't give up, and then I can continue to walk forward and overcome those things. Yeah, so I think that was quite important for me to realize in the workshop, kind of these realizations for myself towards other people, and to have confidence going into this next year. That, yeah, even if like it's difficult, and I feel like I'm doing it alone, I'm not alone, and I can overcome these things because I have people to support me. And yeah, like I think taking it in stride every day in the present, like what am I doing to love other people, to love God, and yeah, no, I mean, not to kind of neglect what had like the victories before or the commitments that are coming up, but like to use it and just have confidence in that, but not to rely on it, for example, for my stability or for my sense of how I'm doing. So yeah, I think it was a really good question for us to have on the workshop, kind of this thing of what do you want to leave behind, what do you want to let go. So maybe it'd be good to think about it. Yeah, I think really grateful to it's kind of a tradition now, I think, for Irish community as well. We are one of the biggest representing communities, and we're like the smallest community there. So we definitely overrepresent, and people really they really appreciate us coming. So yeah, I think that was really an amazing workshop. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Doyle. You touched on so much. Having faith in God despite circumstances. That was powerful. Thank you. Honestly, that was great. And thank you to Vicky as well for sharing her experiences. Very powerful statement to say that the last 2 weeks were probably the most happiest in your life. I hope you can carry that happiness into your life. It's not just be a good experience on its own. But yeah, thank you very much to you. I think another round of applause for them as well is amazing. Both Vicky and Doyle. So we'll actually invite up Conal for a closing prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Dear God, thank you for this. Yeah, thank you for this service that we had together as a community. Yeah, really grateful to hear experiences and yeah, the journeys that yeah, Doyle and Vicky went through. And yeah, there's a lot we can take and a lot we can learn from them, from their experiences. And yeah, I think yeah, for me the biggest takeaway was yeah, we need to just let go of things that we think is best for us, but really put our trust in you. And yeah, to know there's that we don't have to worry. But yeah, there's things that you'll always provide for us. You always be there for us, and we just have to take that step and take that leap that you be there for us. So yeah, I pray that we can be more trusting, that we can be more we can have more faith in not just you but also each other as a community. Yeah, that we can include you more in this community, include you more in our families, and also our individual lives as well. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this past week, for all the experiences, for all the for everything that we go through, the good and the bad. And yeah, I pray that we can have a nice day today as a community. We can also enjoy the lunch that's prepared as well for us. And yeah, I think also just at the workshop, just realizing that we're not as small as we think we are. We're not so insignificant as we think we are, but we really make a big difference. And I pray that we can keep growing as a community. We can keep wanting to make this an ideal community for you and for everyone. So I pray that we can enjoy this lunch together, and we can enjoy the rest of this day, and look forward to a new week of challenges and also opportunities for joy and for a lot of growth as well. So I want to report and pray to my name, County, son of the blessed and family. Adieu.
So if you can all please rise, and we can get ready for our closing song. Life for gracious.
Just enough to grant my way. I would reach to the ends of the earth to give love in every day, and each would find his home with peace and friendship there, where joyous songs abound, and happiness to share. If life were gracious enough to grant my dream, I would see your face in the snow and hear a song in every scene. The comfort of your smile in the warm caress of spring, in the dance of life all the while. I feel your love in everything. You will make a gracious love to fulfill our dream. We will lift up the weight of the world, and our love will blossom supreme. We will free each heart from the pain and anguish of the past, to the preciousness of our love. True joy will reign at last.
Thank you very much to Ashley. Thank you very much. So, on to some announcements. Not many today. Elisa is head chef in the kitchen with the gentle hands of Kehan. They've made lunch for us today. So please pay them. Please enjoy it. And don't forget to say thank you. There's also focaccia as well, I heard, made by Bruno. Bit of Italian touch. Yeah. Looking forward. It's a 5-star meal. It's a 5-star meal. In terms of other announcements, not too many as far as I know. Eli will be giving service next week. So if you're around, please be there. And that's it. Thank you all very much. Enjoy your Sunday. All right, thanks.